give me the go. All right. Thank you everybody for coming. We're having the FFA from Kings Mountain come in and present and talk about how to grow a garden with Nate Blanton. So I'm going to hand it over to them.
Cool. Thank y'all for coming. We got some fun activities, some good information to talk about today. It's a little different. I'm used to talking to classes all the time, so this will be neat for me to do. Got some guests for y'all. All of these are our FFA officers for this year. They each serve a role. We have a student-led organization. It's one of the largest in our school, and they do a lot. And if y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Hey y'all, my name's Sabrina Howe. I'm the 2025-2026 reporter, and I'll be serving my second year as an officer and my fourth year in the association.
Hi, my name is Alexandria Glover. I am an officer. I am the secretary for our FFA chapter. This is my first year being an officer and second year being a part of FFA.
Okay, my name is Madeline Carter. I'm the public relations officer, and this will be my second year and my first year of being an officer.
My name is Alexis Glover. I am the historian for our chapter. This is my first year.
I'm Jade Merrill. I'm the vice president. This is my first year being an officer and my third year in the FFA.
Awesome. So like I said, each of them have a role in our organization that they help us do that we have at Kings Mountain along with our other advisor, Miss Sarah Robbins, and they're a really good group and it's really fun to be around them and watch them grow. Speaking of growing, we're going to talk a little bit about plants today, so I hope y'all are excited. So beginning garden basics. We're going to kind of talk about, the parts of a seed, what it takes to get germination, some different things like that. What are some ideas you can do at home, whether you're a big gardener, just a back porch gardener, a window gardener, whatever that may be for you guys. We're going to try and hit on all those aspects, and then get you in with a little workshop over here with some plants, and you get to pick some seeds and take them home and hopefully watch them grow as well. So we'll talk a little bit about it. So our overview, we're going to kind of talk about starting seeds, the different seasons, and that'll lead us into hardiness zones. We've got some other good stuff like pollinators and some different things that we'll lead into, and then we'll circle back around with some other gardening resources. So starting seeds and planting seasons. So you need to determine whether you're going to start them indoor or outdoor and what's best for you and kind of what time of the year it is. Show of hands, who's had a garden before?
Couple of us.
Cool. So where did y'all all start seeds? What is your go-to?
I've done both.
Both?
I prefer outside though.
Anybody else? Outside. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. We are fortunate enough at Kings Mountain to have a greenhouse on campus. So we usually start them inside, and then we have a small garden spot outside that we usually transplant things to or keep them in a hydroponic tank. There's a lot of different things that we have, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go on. But like I say, some plants grow best started indoors, and the best way to find that out is on your seed packets. Your seed packets are going to be your best friends. Most of the information is always on the seed packet. A lot of times it cracks me up. We'll go in class and a lot of the students just think the seed packet just has a front, and they never really understand all the information on the back, which is why hopefully they signed up for my class. So other plants can be sown directly into the soil. Right now we've sowed some kale and some crowder peas outside in our garden spot. Those are outdoors, and and some gourds. A little late for those, but we're going to see what happens. But we've sown all those outdoors, and we've also started some kale, chives, a lot of other cold hardy plants indoors as well that will eventually move to our raised beds at school. But as long as we're always trying to grow something. Timing is key. A lot of planting calendars will help you. I'm sure everybody's got a calendar that they deal with at home, but planting calendars are really good for determining when they need to be transplanted, as well as overall looking at the plant. Does it have healthy growth? And we'll talk a little bit about the 2 first leaves that develop can kind of help you with transplanting timing as well. Tools you need, obviously you need seeds, trays. Whoa, I missed it. What's up?
On the timing, Do you do anything by the moon cycle?
So I've got the Farmer's Almanac included in here too, and that's a big thing that a lot of people do with the moon phases. And there's a lot, when I was in college, we used to talk about the moon phases on campus at our research farm, and they would talk about the different gravitational pull. Different moon phases will actually help you determine whether you need to water more or less because it has different gravitational pull. Is it going to pull more water into the dirt, or is it going to hold it more on top? So it's pretty cool to talk about the moon phases, but generally we don't necessarily plant by them, but it's a really cool thing to research. And then we'll talk about the extension office. There's a lot of help that we have here in Cleveland County that we have access to, that a lot of people don't realize we have adequate resources for. The extension office.
Yard and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of different things.
Wake it up.
Wake it up.
There you go. Hit the
Just hit the right arrow. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So hardiness zones. What a lot of people don't understand is hardiness zones are divided in regions. We have our own region, but what it is, it's the average temperatures of the coldest average temperatures in your area that you live in, and that's usually how you determine planting calendars. Is by looking at the hardiness zones. The United States is color coded. We're anywhere from zone 7, 6, 7, or 8, anywhere through those 3 zones across our state, all the way from our Piedmont to our coast. So it kind of gives us a good idea of where to look at on a seed packet. And generally, you'll see this on the back of a seed packet with dates up underneath it. And we'll talk about that a little later. And that's usually down here. That's going to be your hardiness zone for your planting times on your seed packets. And a lot of that, when you flip it over, will let you know if it's in season or out of season. But like I said, if you're starting indoors, if you can make that theoretical temperature and climate for that plant, starting them indoors can give you a lot more variety throughout the year. We've got cucumbers sprouting in the greenhouse right now, and they're not really in season. So. All right, so moving on outdoors, plants will need to be hardened off. A lot of times if you've started indoors and tried to take them outside, you're always scared that something's going to happen to them. They're not used to the climate, the bugs, the bees, whatever it may be. It may be too cold. But moving them outdoors, they'll need to be set outside. We're hoping to build like a little nursery area at our greenhouse this year. That way we can have that transition time and make it a little easier from the greenhouse to sitting in that nursery area to then going fully exposed to the elements. And you can kind of do that starting them indoors from your porch to your backyard or raised bed or wherever it may be, to try and not shock them so much.
So I always heard you just take them outside for an hour or 2 a day and then bring them back in.
Yeah, and you can do it that way, same thing. Kind of just increasing that time each day until you're ready to plant them outside. So reducing the shock, and that's what that's going to do. It's going to reduce the shock of anything failure or anything happening to that plant. And then a little bit about biology. So a lot of people don't know this. How many people know that there is a monoecious and a dioecious flower? So a monoecious flower.
Male and female?
Yes, male and female flower. There's a male and a female flower. A monoecious means one house in Latin. The male and female parts are within that, meaning it can flower and fruit on the same. It does not take any pollination from an outside flower. A lot of plants, they have to go by and be pollinated. But with these, a dioecious is just going to be one or the other. It's going to have a male part or a female part. A monoecious is going to have the male and the female part. So a lot of trees, some people might have American holly bushes, but they may only have berries every other bush. That's the difference between that monoecious and dioecious plant. Whether it's flowering or growing berries or producing, and one may not produce anything, but the other one will. That's where it kind of splits between the two. So pollinators matter. We've actually I had a student last year that was very interested. They each have SAE projects. And what that is a supervised agricultural experience. And we try and make learning as hands-on as possible. And one student approached me last year and said, "Hey, can we have bees?" I was like, "Well, I don't know where we're going to put bees. I don't know anything about bees. But I do know they're really important, and that would probably be really good for our curriculum." So we went to the Cleveland County Beekeepers Association. We went to a couple classes and tried to pursue a certification in beekeeping. We passed the test. We've got to go back and take a part 2. But we ended up getting bees through that and meeting a lot of nice people and getting some help for that. And now we have bees on campus. So that's one more thing I got to send a safety contract in for. But it's really cool, and students are really interested in them. And we've got Jaden has made some flyers for you guys if you want to pass those out. She's actually a part of the Beekeeper Association as well. So she helps me a lot with bees, and she's got some at home. But like I said, pollinators are really good to have around. 1 out of every 3 bites of food that we eat actually comes from a bee. So they're that important to us, and we're that important to them to be able to grow stuff for them, to be able to pollinate. So we got to do our part too, so that they can do our part for us. So pollinators matter. We've got a really cool butterfly bush in our courtyard that everybody's going crazy over. I wish the whole courtyard was filled with butterfly bushes. But we've got one that teachers have been sending pictures of, saying that the butterflies are all over it. But it helps boost yields and biodiversity. A lot of times nowadays, if you look out into a field, it's just going to be a field of corn or a field of soybeans. And the farmers nowadays are getting really good about doing cover crops and different techniques that weren't happening besides just throwing lime on the field a long time ago. They're doing cover crops nowadays. They're coming back in alternating rows that they're planting for. And those cover crops are going to help produce nitrogen in the field itself, so that way they don't have to add any more amendments to it. And another way we can help just as individuals, not being farmers, is by planting pollinators for them, getting the pollinators to come around and just be here and create biodiversity in our environments around.
How do you know when they're pollinators? Like the certain plants are.
So there's different seasons. They call like the flow season where they're trying to get that honey, and then there's seasons where they're trying to just pack in that pollen to store over the winter. And I'm actually gonna get Jaden to talk a little bit about bees for you guys. Tell her a little bit about her experience with bees and maybe what it's helped her learn through this.
Okay, so I've been a part of the Beekeepers Association for about, let's say, 2 years now. We've had honeybees for about 4. My dad knows a lot more than me, so I've had to reach out to Ray Maxwell quite a few times. I've listed him as a contact. But yeah, pretty much it's just bees. They're very important to the plants. They pollinate them. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. Anyway. You can really find bees anywhere. They can travel up to, I believe is over 5 miles from their hives and go out and find more food and bring them back. And bees are going extinct recently, I believe. So my dad hates it whenever people put pesticides in their yard, because that also as well kills the bees. So just be careful what you're putting in your yard. There are 3 different types of bees. There are workers, there are drones, and there are the queens. The queen is the queen of the hive. The drones are the males. They don't have the stingers. They're just made for mating, and that's pretty much it. That's what they do. And then the workers are the worker bees that go out and get the honey and come back. So that's pretty much just the...
So it's super cool, like she was saying, be careful of what you're putting in your yard. And I try and tell students that, you know, you have a front yard, and nowadays it's everybody wants the coolest stripes in their yard and this and that. But honestly, the clover, bees love clover. So if you have it in your yard, bees love it. Don't be afraid to just spray Roundup on it. Know that a bee's probably coming around the corner to try and pollinate it as well. But there's so much more to a front yard than just having, you know, the great green stripes in it. You can implement raised beds or plant butterfly bushes so that you can attract pollinators. Multiple different things that you can do to try and create that. We've actually got a tree stump down at my house from the hurricane. It fell over and we burned the inside of the stump, and we've actually got tomatoes growing out of the inside of that stump right now. So there's beauty in that, with a lot of different things that you can do. Instead of just seeing that, hey, the tree is down, let's get it up. No, let's burn a hole in it and put dirt in it and plant a tomato out of it and see what happens. So anything can grow something out of it, which is really cool. We've got and I'll get into containers a little bit in a minute. We've taken barrels and cut in half and made planting containers with that before. We've got a lot of pallets. We've got a lot of ideas that we can do with pallets at school. We'd like to do little herb gardens and take every other rung out of the pallet and put it underneath it, and then it would almost be like a 3-tiered herb garden that we're going to try and implement. But like I said, pollinators matter so much. Hummingbirds, bees, butterflies, they all create biodiversity in our environment, and they all help our plants bloom, which is great, because if we didn't have plants or water, in our natural resources class we talk about soil and water, and those are the two most important things. If our soil isn't viable enough to grow us plants, and if we don't have any water to water those plants, then there's nothing else. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Native plants are always good. A lot of the things people don't realize is that when they're planting, is it native? Is it invasive or not? And I'm sure Sabrina, she had an internship with Crowder's Mountain State Park, and I'm sure y'all went and checked out different things with invasive species and different things like that, if you want to kind of talk about that in your experience.
This summer I had the opportunity to work at Crowder's Mountain State Park. There's this thing called NGRID. It's called the Natural Resource Identification Tool, and it's basically what rangers and different people in the the park system use to just see what's in their park. And by being able to use this technology almost every day or every other day, I've seen how much invasives there are around. Like, you wouldn't think, but like fire ants are invasive. They're not supposed to be here. We're in the South. Everybody knows kudzu galore. Another problem we had at Crowder's was primrose. So we have down there's a lake, and you can only fish out of it. And the primrose problem is so exorbitantly bad, and it just keeps getting worse because somebody tracked it in, and now it's stuck here forever. And basically what primrose does is it chokes out anything. So there was one part where there was nothing, like there was no biodiversity at all. They drained the lake, I think like 10 years ago, and it was just like smooth on the bottom because the primrose had choked everything out. They constantly have to restock it and keep a check on how bad it is because that stuff multiplies like nobody's business. There was a few others I can't really place at the moment, but yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, invasive species are a good proponent to know. If trying to stay native is the best thing, and that's another thing pollinators love, is that they love things that grow in our area. We probably don't want to plant kudzu in our raised beds out front in our yard, but planting some pollinator friendly plants are always going to be good.
Does anybody plant kudzu?
Not necessarily. Yeah, I think it just comes out of nowhere. Probably the best thing for kudzu is goats.
Yeah, the reason kudzu was brought down here is because of erosion, to like mitigate it. And then kudzu is kind of a plant that just gets out of control.
Yep.
So if you've ever been on, what's the name of that road? It's headed into South Carolina. But there's like, it's just like you can't see through it.
York Road?
Not York Road.
You can
I think
eat it
like
though, when there's
Dixie-
no food around, you can eat kudzu.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's like Dixie Valley or something like that. Love Valley Road. If you've ever gone down Love Valley Road, there's just like walls and walls of kudzu, and it's really crazy. Is that the right side?
Yep, that's fine. And another thing, I know we're talking about invasive and native species, but also knowing plants. There are long day plants, short day plants, and day neutral plants. And what that means is, you were talking about planting with the moon phases. Well, those are like kind of planting with the sun phases. Strawberries are a big thing that are either short day, long day, or day neutral, depending on how much you want them to produce. If it's, right now it's starting to get dark a little earlier. So it's like, do I want a day neutral plant, or do I want a short day plant, a long day plant? Or days are starting to get a little shorter. So just knowing if plants are one of those three and kind of what to do in your garden is also a proponent of that. But we're going to talk a little bit about DIY garden styles. This is really cool to look at. This picture is one of my favorites. I know it's starting to become illegal, but if you're prop lifting, if you're ever walking through the plant section in Lowe's, specifically the dead and dying section is what I like to call it, and where all the succulents are. I always like to grab one. Probably might shouldn't say that on camera, but if you grab one and take it home and put it in dirt, it's so easy. You would just give it a little bit of time, and then you have your own succulent. And then once it blooms, you take those pieces off of it, and then you have more. And you can ask them in our greenhouse. All of our succulents, when I first started teaching, I got a small batch from the dead and dying section, and we've been propagating those succulents for 3 years. And that's what we've had, and that's all we've ever had. And it's really cool, and you can ask them. We've got tons of succulents in the greenhouse just from that. Taking cuttings, taking the stems off, and just plugging them in dirt, and they just keep multiplying. But that's one way to DIY your garden, is to go through the store and get you a little clipping of one. But pallet gardens.
Can you do that with like fruits and vegetables too? I've heard that you can take a blueberry and smash it and put it in
Yes,
dirt.
some people do that. Some people will. We have a compost pile outside of our greenhouse, and they can attest to this too. Whatever we throw in there seems to grow back. We try and make good compost to put around the plants, but it seems to keep producing its own plants.
Volunteer tomatoes.
We've got tons of volunteer tomatoes. We used some compost in our garden, and we were looking today, and we've got a pepper plant in the middle of a walking trail from where we put compost. We filled up raised beds at the end of last semester to plant carrots in, and that ended up growing a ton of tomatoes. So they were all freaked out. They were like, we planted carrots and there's tomatoes growing. But it's all from the compost of having that right condition of, it had water and it had heat, and all those seeds started producing. And temperature wise for plants, if you can germinate a seed in anywhere from 65 to 85 degrees, you're going to have a good germination rate, a higher germination rate. So if you're one of those people that like to keep your house on like 56, you might have a little trouble starting seeds indoors.
Well, they have those heat mats.
Yes, and heat mats are really good too. With the heat mats, I like to bottom water, putting the plants on the heat mats and pouring the water in your tray itself. Letting it soak up the water as needed. I'm a big proponent of bottom water. A lot of the trays we get are serrated on the bottom, so we can't do that as much as we would like. But I think bottom watering, especially on top of a heat mat, is a good idea. You get a really good germination rate. But pallet gardens, there's tons that you can do with pallets. If you're looking to get into gardening and don't really have a big startup budget filled out, go find some pallets. I'm sure any Walmart, Tractor Supply, they've got pallets laying around everywhere. There's tons of different ideas you can do with pallets. There's one on the back of your sheet there. That's 2 pallets. They've taken some different things out there in the bottom right of your sheet and made a little vertical garden and a in-ground garden as well with just 2 pallets. And especially with raised bed gardening and pallet gardening, has anyone ever heard of square foot gardening? So square foot garden is a really cool method. You square your garden off by the square foot and determine how many plants can go within it in that square foot. And if you want to get into it, there's a whole deep dive on square foot gardening, but it's really cool, especially in small areas with pallets or raised beds or things like that. And it makes more sense. It's almost like a dot grid when you're laying it out of what can fit in where, and it's really cool. A tire garden, we're actually going to try and implement this in our courtyard. Our natural resource classes went over and came up with some ideas. We built some raised beds out of some scrap wood, and we're going to get some tires and put some tire gardens out there as well, just to try and enhance the amount of pollinators that we have and bring more of an attraction to our courtyard to make it more of a welcoming space. And I think there's a lot to say in that as gardening as well. A lot of people don't garden just to get the fruit of it. They garden for the mental aspect of it. When I was in college, I worked at a farm, and a lot of veterans used to come out there who suffered from PTSD and different things, and it was a calming thing for them. And I know a lot of that is what you preach.
Take your shoes off when you're gardening.
Yes,
Walk
I used to.
around in the grass.
I did that. I really can't do that at school.
Yeah.
But he does.
Gotta do that from the PPE. But if you catch me around there in the summer, I've probably got my shoes off. But it's being one, feeling that dirt get stuck on your hands and then dry up. It's not all about just trying to plant it, but also feeling good when you're done with it. But gardening provides more than just fruit, like I said, but there's tons of different ways. When I was in college, I probably had 13 milk jugs on our front deck, and that's where I would start my seeds. I would cut the milk jug in half, fold it out, put my dirt and seeds in there, close it back, and put a piece of tape around it, and I made a mini greenhouse. So I went to school in Appalachian, and I was able to start seeds on the deck of my porch at App. So you can, like I say, that's a different hardiness zone. That's going to be one of the colder ones. But it's super cool to see what you can do with just things laying around. Container gardening is really fun. You can literally turn any old thing into something to grow a plant in. We've got test tubes in class. Any plant they want they can take a cutting of. They have their own test tube. They can drop it in. One that gets roots, they take it home and pot it up. So it's super cool. Raised beds are super easy. People do them with cinder blocks, wood, brick, tin, any old thing you've got laying around the house. It was funny, we have chickens at the school, and we were going through a lot of feed bags, and we actually sewed some up and made tomato hangers out of old feed bags, which was really cool. We kind of sewed them into a purse-like feature, cut a hole in the bottom and planted an upside down tomato plant. They did really good with that. So those are some things, just trying to turn anything into something that can grow is really cool.
So I grew upside down tomatoes, but the store-bought thing, I did
Right.
just a little thing, but, mine split. Did I give them too much water?
The tomatoes themselves, they split. It could be that they sat on the vine too long and were just growing. It could be that there was too much water. I'm not as smart as I look, and I don't think I look that smart. So I've always been, if they're splitting, they're probably getting too big on the vine, is what I've always thought of.
But if they're not turning red and they're.
So they were splitting before they turned red, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, then maybe they were too much water, like I said, I don't know.
Couldn't they be growing too quickly?
Growing too quickly, maybe too much fertilizer? Not sure. I don't know the answer to that question. But upside down tomato plants are really cool. We did, last year we had an herb sale and a tomato sale, and a lot of people bought the hanging baskets. And they did the tomatoes growing out the bottom, and like their basil and different stuff growing in the top. And that was just a really cool way to, what is it, bruschetta? You could get your basil, your mozzarella, and your tomato and have it all there in one little pot, which is really cool. So tons of different ways you can do DIY gardens. If there's a will, there's a way. I really want to get a gutter and put it in our greenhouse and hang it up and do like a hydroponic run.
Ooh, I have one. You want it?
Maybe. But speaking of hydroponics, we have a fish tank in our greenhouse that it has fish in the bottom and it pumps water up into the top, and we grow plants aquaponically, so that the fish will provide the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium, and all the things that plants need for growth up the top, and it filters out their feces. The plants take it in as nutrients. It grows the plants up top, and the fish live happy down low.
So you
it's
don't
super
have
cool.
to use any fertilizer supplements or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
Wow, that's cool.
Nope.
We know somebody that's doing that.
Yeah, so it's super cool. We've got another big tank that we're trying to get. It's a lot larger. It's probably what, 300-400 gallons, if not bigger than that.
Spaceship.
Yeah, we call it the spaceship.
It's taller than he is.
Blue one?
When it's up on its side, yeah, but when it's out,
It's huge.
it would cover that whole rug right there. And we're trying to figure out how we can do some stuff with it. But speaking of trying to figure things out, there's resources. The extension office, I put that on there as well. There's a lot of good stuff that the extension office offers from NC State, as well as the plant toolbox. So I know Sabrina was talking a little bit about the ID tools, what they use every day when they come in, and y'all can kind of tell them how you do your plant IDs. Somebody wants to tell them about that. Okay, you got it.
Yeah. So basically, every morning we come in, there's a different plant or tree or anything on the board, and we will go to the NC Plant Toolbox, and we just put the name in, and it will bring up like descriptions of it, the different diseases that you can get, that they can get. They can. The fruits. I don't know.
Fruit, flower description, what kind of leaves, if it's alternate, opposite, world, all kinds of things. You make sure if you're in horticulture, you have your plant ID down. If you're in natural resources or forestry, you have your tree ID down. Yeah, we use Virginia Tech never mind.
Dendrology.
Yeah, and then NC State Toolbox, but I found the NC State Toolbox has a lot more in depth than
It's really good.
Yeah.
I tell them that they help us breathe, so why not know their names too? So, but a lot of different garden styles. Have you all tried anything rather than just planting in ground? Does anybody have any super ideas? I'd love to hear what y'all do too, if you've ever tried anything different than just planting it straight in the ground.
We've tried some at home.
Yeah.
I bought him some herbs for Christmas.
Yeah.
And we had the little containers, you know, where it had the lighting and the
Mhm.
top and stuff, and so we started with that.
Yeah.
And
They usually start out real spindly.
Yeah. Get pretty leggy.
So, yeah, and I can never get them to come back, they die after that.
Didn't you try that to make the light thing too?
Oh yeah, we have a hydroponic tower in our room, and I've really only had success with cuttings in that. I can't get the ratio right and for fertilizer for seeds. We've started them in rock wool. Rock wool is another medium that's really good to grow plants in, especially if you're starting them, want to start them by themselves and then plant them straight in. Roots can grow through the bottom of that. It's called rock wool. What we usually use is the clay pebbles for our hydroponics is really good. And we try to keep our germination mix a lot lighter than our propagation mix. So our germination mix is usually we're gonna put more vermiculite and perlite in it to help hold that water. Perlite, have you ever seen the white kind of globs in your fertilizer mix or soil mix? So that's your perlite, that's a volcanic ash, and then your vermiculite is gonna be like, like freeze-dried candy. So they do that with mica, and then it becomes vermiculite, and it's also a water absorbing agent, and it helps hold water in there a little longer. So we try to make it as light as possible for that seed to shoot through. So like I said, there's multiple ways to germinate a plant as long as it has the right conditions. You could ball it up in a paper towel or a cotton ball and wear it as a necklace, and the seed would still germinate. That's a project that we're gonna do probably. So. But it's super cool to see seeds sprout. Hit the next one. So, like I said, gardening resources, they've talked a little bit about Plant Toolbox, the Cooperative Extension Office, and then, of course, the Cleveland County Beekeepers Association. Those are all resources we have within Cleveland County that we use at Kings Mountain, which is really cool that they're able to do that and give us support. Another one is the Natural Resource Conservation Service. The NRCS is really good. Especially if you've got livestock or anything like that, or creeks or anything to preserve your land or water that you have around your house. They're also really good to reach out to. Hit it. And then, of course, the Farmer's Almanac is based on traditional wisdom, folklore, astronomy with the moon phases and different things like that. Talks about planting, predictions, and harvesting. It's not always correct. When my sister got married about 7 years ago, she planned it on the driest, hottest day that there possibly ever could have been in the Farmer's Almanac. And it rained like crazy that day. It started out as the driest, hottest day, and then a monsoon came. So it's not always trustworthy, but neither is the weathermen. There's an old wise tale. A lot of the old men, you just pick up their sayings every now and then. They say little boys who lie grow up to be weathermen. So you can take it with a grain of salt. The almanac, the weather, something's always going to give, but always base it off your judgment. My grandma always says she can smell rain, so different things like that. And there is some truth behind that, I think. But different modern use, almanac remains as a fun, inspirational tool. They're just really fun to look at. just to dive into that knowledge and see what all it has to offer. But it's a really cool book. You'll probably see these in like the checkout line at Ingles or something like that. But they're super cool.
Do you do anything with, I can't remember what it's called, but copper?
Yes, I've heard that the copper can provide the different, a whole lot more nutrients for that. Especially like the copper wire, if you do that and stake it in your garden almost like a stake.
Yeah.
Have y'all tried? Did you
I've tried,
have
yeah.
anything?
It didn't
No.
work.
No.
I feel like it does work in some senses and then not in others. But I also tried, there's like crystals, quartz
Right.
crystals, and there's like these green and white stones, and they're black stones
Yeah.
and stuff. I've tried all that stuff too, but
Well, shungite is supposed to help too. Shungite is
Yeah.
supposed to help grow
Right.
as well.
So there's some truth to that. If you ever get like cut flowers that you put in a vase,
Yeah.
if you maybe have ever seen it at somebody's house, they'll drop a few pennies in the bottom. That was an old thing to keep flowers lasting longer because of the copper that the pennies used to be made out of. So
I tried it in my bird bath.
yeah.
To keep out the algae.
yeah, it keeps the algae down and different things like that. So it's super cool. But just talking about the different things that we do at Kings Mountain, we have minimal space to work with, and we find something to do with every little aspect that we have. I think my first year there, I was like, hey, can we plow up the side of the BIT building is where we're at and have a garden? And they were like, are you serious? I was like, yes, we're serious. And so I'll let them kind of talk you through these pictures and a little bit about everything that we've done garden wise that helps support buzzing and blooming. So anybody want to go?
Yes, we want to talk. Yes. Okay, actually, maybe you should start.
Beekeepers. Okay, so these are a few of our students working with where our beehives are, and most of the time my family, we don't wear all of that because my dad has been doing it for so long that he feels comfortable without all of the protection. But since we are at school, we kind of need all that. And basically they just go out there, check for any mites, anything that might look not safe, that's not supposed to be there. And we're not making honey yet, are we?
Not yet.
Not
It's
yet. But
super cool.
we can still check for honey, make sure all the little, I forgot what they're called, but all the little things are covered, they're ready to go.
Do you feed them? Sugar water?
At my house, yes. Do we do that? We do that
Yeah.
at school. At my house, my dad, he has a jar with just holes poked in the top, and he'll just keep it out there for weeks at a time if it lasts. But most of the time, they provide themselves with the food that they need, with that occasional push.
Okay, so he talked a lot about what we do in class, and also we are FFA chapter, which is a club. It's a national organization actually. So a few of these photos, we do a lot of community service in class and as the chapter's concerned. So these photos right here are like our garden type stuff. Fun fact about these hoop houses you see them putting up, they actually went flying down the hill. If you've ever seen the BIT building at Kings Mountain, there's this really steep hill. We were getting out of, I think like poultry practice one day, and one of the principals was like, hey, by the way, your hoop houses are almost in the street. So we haven't had hoop houses since. But it was a fun.
And then the hurricane brought them even further out onto the street and destroyed them.
So yeah, rest in pieces.
We ended up bending some rebar.
Yeah.
And then the rebar held way too good, and the wind basically blew and inverted the hoop house. But it did not blow away after the rebar.
And then we had to pull it up out of the ground, which was great. This is some of our this is like what they do in class. So when he was mentioning tilling up the side of the BIT building, we really did that. I think the year after he came, he'd been here a year, so the year after. And then that garden, and then the post office. We've been to the post office. We take care of the garden out there as well. So this part that you see her tilling up and where the hoop houses was, we turned that into a project with a local hot sauce maker. And so we planted our own vegetables and we planted our own hot sauce. Puma peppers specifically. I can't remember his name. Shelby Spice. We did have a student that did an internship with Duncan. He might just be right there. He's hardly containing himself. So we did the pepper project. That was so cool. we picked pounds and pounds of peppers. We made the Fang hot sauce. Here's photos of them doing that. We did raised beds, so basically you don't have the space for a garden, you make a raised bed. And then our FFA events, which only 2 photos, we did more than one, okay. Guess it's like not important. But yeah. But we go to our 2 biggest things that we do is state convention. So there's over like 3,000, 5,000 FFA members in the state of North Carolina, and there's over like 15,000. They just don't all go. So every summer we take a trip to Raleigh, spend a week there, do various competitions. I've competed in extemporaneous speaking and ag issues. They've competed in AgCom and ag issues as well. And Quiz Bowl. She didn't go last year, I'm sorry. But anyways, we get to do all kinds of stuff, meet all kinds of people, and then we go to FFA camp at White Lake. So a lot of kids, they've never been no farther than, I don't know, Greensboro. So they go down to Elizabethtown for a week, do various sports, meet FFA members from like Crest and Burns, so right up the street, but we don't really talk to them that much.
Okay.
But they get to hang out for a week, make connections. So yeah, that's a little bit about, yeah. Is there anyone?
No.
We good to move on?
Yep, that's the last one.
Imagine
So like I said, all of these students do a really good job of not only taking in the information, but being leaders in the school and in the community. Super proud of them. And like I said, I know a little about a lot and a lot about a little. So if anybody has any questions, or I might have some questions for y'all, I never know. But I hope you got a little bit, maybe learned a little bit more than you didn't know. If not, thanks for coming. But we will transition to the table. I've got some seeds for you guys over there with some pots, some different seeds that'll be ready during this time. I've got some perennial, wildflower mix you can throw down in your yard. I've got some different herbs you can keep in the house by the kitchen sink. All kinds of different stuff. Show you some different types of containers to plant in, what the best ones may be, some compostable containers. So something along the lines of that. If you guys want to go over, they'll help get y'all set up. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you guys for coming.
Anything else?
Yeah.
When can you plant the butterfly bushes? Can you plant those any time of the season?
So I'm not familiar with the butterfly bush right off the top of my head, but the plant toolbox online will tell you exactly when the perfect growing season is for that. I would say generally, as long as you have the right conditions, obviously maybe in the spring sometime, but it is a very good thing to have